August 4th, 2020 is now in session. Councilmember Dollar will lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the United States and the state of Texas flags. Please rise.
Heavenly Father, as the events of the day continue to unfold, we seek your clarity and your peace. We know you are with us and for us as we gather together to seek your counsel. Scripture reminds us the more we seek you, the more we will find you. Lead our surrendered hearts to the path of your peace today. Come fully into our situation, both as a group and individually, and sort out the muddled feelings and distorted thoughts that plague us. Cover us with a blanket of honesty and patience that is not of this world. Holy Spirit, translate our desires and pleadings, and may we understand the faithful response of our great Father. Jesus walked this earth to explain so much to us and to save us from eternal suffering. Yet on this earth, he promised us that we would encounter much pain. Struggling for solutions amidst differing personalities can seem impossible. Thankfully, we're not expected to be perfect. Thankfully, we're told in the Bible that we will all fall short. So as we gather here today, let us release the bind of blame in exchange for accord. Help us to endure disagreement and strife with godly courage and love. Grant us peace in knowing we are pursuing your purpose for our lives. And also let us pray for the families of the 8 servicemen lost while training out in California, as well as the 2 young ladies tragically dying here in Schertz last week, as well as their families. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Councilmember. One special announcement, council and guests, while you're seated, it is perfectly fine to remove your mask or while speaking at the podium. But as you approach the dais or depart the chamber, we respectfully ask that you place your mask back on. We'll continue with employee recognitions versus the police department.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Administration. My name is Kelly Calise. I am the Support Service Lieutenant for our Police Department, and I'm honored to introduce to you Ms. LaSonia Madison. She is our newest police specialist, record specialist for the department. She was born and raised in San Antonio. She graduated from John F. Kennedy High School, and she also attended San Antonio College, where she's gotten 2 associate's degrees. She brings a lot of law enforcement knowledge coming from the city of San Antonio for the last 20 years. So I would like to introduce to you Ms. LaSonia Madison.
Welcome, welcome. Mike's all yours.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say briefly that I'm extremely excited to be here. I was so grateful when I got that call after having an interview the same day. I got it that evening saying that I was chosen as a candidate to, since I applied for the position and I was chosen. So I was very grateful that I got that call. I'm very grateful that I finally started work, and I'll be here for a long while, hopefully till I'm 65 or older.
Awesome,
and
awesome.
I plan to be here.
Well, welcome to our team.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lieutenant Hillary Albadier, Schertz Police Department, and I'm here to introduce a young lady who has not worked with us. This isn't her first time. She actually has been with the city for a while, but her name is Miss Lisa Locken. She comes to us from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she moved here to Texas in July of 2016 from Pennsylvania. Sorry, I'm going off of notes here. She has 2 sons. Nick is her grown son who recently graduated with his master's from UTSA, and he proudly joined the Texas National Guard. And she has a younger son named Jude who will be attending as a freshman at Steele High School this next coming year. She began working for our city, like I said, in July of 2017 as a crossing guard. She then moved to a different position where she was a parking lot patrol, and she braved our young students over there, making sure that our parking areas were safe and secure, and the areas for YMCA and the Playscape were also safe as well. She promoted to Code Enforcement Officer on July 6th, and we look forward to working with her for many years to come. A fun fact about Miss Locken is that she was honored as a Volunteer of the Year at Fort Sill and also received the Molly Pritchard Award, which is given to women who have voluntarily contributed to the improvement of the field artillery. And that was during her supportive time during her husband's career in the military. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Lisa, mic's all yours, please.
I just want to thank the police department for giving me the opportunity to move up within the department.
It's great to see that. Thank you. Thanks for being part of our team.
Very happy to
Okay, next we have Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, Dr. Brown. My name is Doug Lutbetter, Public Works, Streets and Drainage Manager. First, we have Nacho Castillo. He started with the city July 6th, Street Worker 1. He's currently learning the city and how we go about our daily maintenance and what we do. He was born December 12, 1989, raised in San Antonio, Texas, and is currently living there. He went to Hermanhurst Elementary and graduated from Bracken Ridge High School. Nacho has been married for 9 years to Wendy, his wife, and has 2 children, Junior, who's 8 years old, and Cristiano. Something that he really likes to do is softball, play softball. So, Nacho.
Nacho, mic's all yours if you'd like to say a few words.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Well, welcome to our team. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Brett Hartzell. He started July 6th, and again, as a Street Worker 1, he's learning the position and the maintenance we do out there every day, the streets. He was born March 17th, 1962. He was in a military family and traveled all over. He went to Lewis Palmer Elementary in Colorado. Middle school is Lewis Palmer, and graduated from Lewis Palmer High School. Brett has been married for 28 years to Shannon and has 1 daughter, Britton, who is 19 years old, and 1 granddaughter named Kaylee, who is 2.5 years old. Interesting thing about Brett, he likes racquetball, tennis, golfing, bowling, and fishing.
Brett, mic's all yours.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Look forward to the many years to come.
Last but not least, we have Raymond Jones. Ray, so that's what they call him. He started with us on July 27th, so he's pretty fresh here. Again, he's a Street Worker 1 and learning everything we do here in the Streets Department. He was born March 30th, 1984 in Riverside, California, and moved to Junction, Texas in 1992. He went to elementary school and graduated from high school there. Currently resides in New Braunfels for the last 7 years. Raymond is married to Lindsay for the last 9 years and have 4 kids: Bentley 9, Noah 8, Tatum 4, and Jaden 1. Raymond likes spending time with the kids, playing football and fishing. So.
Raymond.
Like he said, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I plan on being here for many years.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being part of our team. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. We'll continue with announcements of upcoming city events.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, as with the previous week's announcement, we have, the city is going to be holding a general election on November 3rd to elect council members places 3, 4, and 5 for 3-year terms. Deadlines to file is Monday, August 17, 2020 by 5 p.m. Candidate packet and qualification information for the election can be found on our website or from the city secretary's office. The other thing I'll mention is, in light of the COVID pandemic, we had to cancel a number of our parks and recreation programs, and so our Parks Department went to work saying, what can we do instead to give folks in the community something to do? So because we've canceled the movies and music in the parks, Parks is going to make this Saturday night, August 8th, a curbside craft night, so residents can stop by Pickerel Park, the large pavilion. They can meet Jessie from Toy Story 4, pick up a copy of a Forky craft kit, if you're familiar with the movie, to complete at home, and Jesse and the team will be at the pavilion from 5 to 7. Additionally, then families are encouraged to watch the movie at home, either stream it or get a DVD or Blu-ray, and then again, we're planning to have a local food truck out there. Folks can pre-order online, pick up dinner so they don't have to cook at home, pick up a packet for their kids to make a Forky, and then go home and kind of watch the movie, something to kind of keep people engaged doing something. So,
All right, thank you. Announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Dr. Brown.
You have one this evening, and it's in our police department, our outstanding police department. Officer Ryan McCosh, would you come forward, please? So this is a kind of a unique event, and I think this is really indicative of the quality of officers that we have in our department. So we've got a little video to show you. Mark, if you could show us that little Facebook video of Officer McCosh in action. I don't even know if he knows about this. And this was a Facebook post. And I'm told we don't have sound, so I'll describe it.
What should we do?
See, guys, this is stuff you never see. See how good our policemen are? That gentleman doesn't have no shoes, and that police officer from Schertz just bought him some shoes. That's a homeless man. That's a good man right there. That's a good police officer. Thank you to our police officers. Bye-bye.
How about that? You know, I just think it's indicative of the kind of quality employees we have, not only in police, but all throughout our city who are doing things like that, often for our residents and for others. But Ryan, congratulations, did an outstanding job, and we couldn't ask any more of you. I'm going to present him a coin, a city manager coin, and I think he really exemplified the three ideals on the back of that, and it's community service and opportunity. He really exemplified all of that. When he went the extra mile, and he didn't even know that anybody knew about it. So Ryan, congratulations.
Mark, can I get you to raise?
Okay.
Sorry.
Great job.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. You actually have, you actually touched a lot of hearts with what you did. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. Announcements and recognitions by the mayor. I don't have any. So next on the agenda is a hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the city council. Each person is limited to 3 minutes, and we ask before addressing the council, for the record, please state your name and address. First up is Richard Coons.
Good evening. My name is Richard Kuntz. I reside at 2960 Red Tip here in the city of Schertz. I come to you as a resident of the city and as president of the Schertz Police Association. We want to come to the Schertz City Council and bring some information. Recently, the city conducted the staffing and compensation and benefits studies between two different groups. We've already given our response on those studies. One of the biggest issues that came up regarding especially the recommendation of the new pay scale is the compression and how the compression issues have become more intensified because of the new pay scale. Now, our desire is not to come to you and just complain, bring forward our problems or issues or concerns, but hopefully we can also bring some possible solutions or ideas to help the city. We have got a proposal to help adjust the pay for the members of the department to include officers and communication officers. And that proposal will not cost the city any more than what the city has already committed in their budget for our department. Currently, for the last 3 years, the city police department has had a surplus of over $276,000. That shows a good, consistent pattern of us being fiscally responsible, but also it gives an opportunity to make a pay adjustment. And again, cost the city no more than what they've already committed. Currently, the city has committed over $308,000 by the year 2023 of October for their own adjustments in the pay studies and the pay study recommendations. I've sent you this information through email that's been forwarded hopefully to you in more detail about this information and these results and these values. We came up with a value of $271,758.10 to make this adjustment. Currently, under the pay scale that the city is going to be implementing or has been implementing by 2023, there will be 18 employees who will make more than those who have more seniority than they do. Some of these employees will make more than $8,000 a year than those who are more senior in their own same position or rank. That is a huge disparity. Our proposal will bring that down to 1. Again, we're not just here to come and give you our gripes and complaints, but hopefully give you ideas and possible solutions. Included in the information sent to you is how the implementation would work. I myself have heard from certain people the desire for more innovation and or resourcefulness in certain funding for emergency services, to include the police department. That challenge has been accepted, and with this proposal it has been answered. There would be no expansion in the police budget, and all the city council needs to do is simply give their approval for the funding. One of the other issues or concerns is regarding certification and education pay. I unfortunately was unable to gather all the information I really wished to gather as far as comparison for the local departments. I won't go into a whole lot of detail. I've given in that same email includes that information. If you have questions, please contact me. I will continue to try to get more information regarding surrounding departments and what they offer as far as either certification, education, incentive, shift differential, or special assignment pay. The next is separate pay scale, which has to do with basically what I was just talking about earlier, and one of the issues with compression. With a separate pay scale, I think it would help alleviate, actually we as an association think, would help alleviate a lot of these issues of compression, especially within ranks and between ranks. What has been seen by the last study that was addressed before is how officers are compared to other members in the city from different departments. And we don't think we're any better than anyone else. but our jobs are different and unique. And to be able or to compare what we do as police officers to any other job is not fair and truly undermines a true good evaluation of what we actually do. A separate pay scale would solve that issue. You would be comparing police officers with police officers. In addition, without a separate pay scale, the proposal that has been brought forth would be undermined, and it wouldn't take that long for it to be undermined by the fact of, again, continually comparing people in the police department and their job functions with those outside. Although this has been brief, or a little bit longer than expected, but we wish to thank you for your time, your patience, and your consideration of this.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next we have Maggie Tinnington.
Good evening, Council. The Chamber has been working really hard during these past few months to help our local businesses to not only get the right information, to try to do digital marketing through Zoom, education. We actually have an Epic Mentor Board that we were able to get going this year, and one of the businesses that we are helping out was in just dire need of some business sense about how to market during these challenging times. And so we have found that this being such an unusual time, we've really had to reinvent what it is that we do, since we cannot network and market the way that we would like to do and have done in the past. We are going to be doing, though, a luncheon, an in-person luncheon, very limited. We are keeping it down to 120 persons in a venue that could probably accommodate a lot more than that. But it is a nonprofit push, because we are finding our nonprofit business members are really, really being hit hard during this time, because as we're all tightening up our budgets and having to make costs and cuts, the nonprofits are suffering. So we are going to do a nonprofit focus. We have 18 local nonprofits that will be present at this luncheon. It is also our Leadership Corps graduation, which, sad to say, we had to cut some of the classes short, but I feel that there was a lot of really good lessons and a lot of good engagement that happened, so we will be celebrating that Leadership Corps class graduation as well. Our September 15th luncheon, which again will be on a limited basis, is going to be our Civic Leaders Focus luncheon. So those members that are running for re-election, or even if you're an incumbent and you aren't running for any office but you want to represent your county, Cibolo I know has no elections, Selma had their elections in May, which nobody ran against anyone, but they are all welcome to have a table to either talk about the, well, let me see, yeah, the budgets will still be going on, but I think by that time the vote will be done, but they can still talk about it. Businesses can come and discuss some issues that they have, and so we'll be reaching out to all the cities, to the counties, to the school board, that if they would like to have a table representation, that we would like to invite them to come and join us. And last but not least, we did have to cancel our Skylight Hot Air Balloon Festival. It was in the best interest not only of the community, but of the sponsors. We couldn't fulfill what we promised. We could not fulfill the expectations of what the past 3 years have presented. We have rescheduled for October 22nd through the 24th of 2021, so we are looking forward to that. And the best part is all the vendors, all the fees that we paid, they transferred them all to the next year, and so we weren't out any monies or any type of a loss. So we're just very eagerly planning for next year. We have some big band surprises that we contracted with, and so we are looking forward to next year. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Dennis, is there any hearing the residents submitted in writing?
Mr. John Sullivan, who lives at 513 Triple Crown, submitted a email to the Mayor and Council. It says, Schertz, Mayor and Council, thank you for your time this evening. I want to bring 2 items to your attention. My first concern is with the virtual meeting options. When browsing the city website, I noticed that the city posted an upcoming budget meeting Would it be possible to post the meeting materials on the website and provide a comment form to make it easier for citizens to engage with city leaders and staff? Overall, I think the city could do a lot more to encourage public input through virtual meetings and feedback forums. I've been disappointed by the lack of virtual input of our city boards and commissions. Many other cities are conducting meetings completely virtually. I think this would go a long way to providing an avenue to improve citizen engagement regardless of the current health situation, but it would have to be something the city staff will embrace and encourage. I think this should be an area of emphasis given the current environment, specifically for public meetings and new projects or initiatives. My second concern is with purchasing new land in the FEMA Special Flood Area Hazard Zone for a city-owned parking lot. I was surprised to learn that City Council passed a resolution to buy a property on Main Street for 22 parking spaces at the cost of $210,000. In the consent agenda at the last council meeting, it was not stated in the agenda how this will be funded. Is this part of the Main Street bond program? Given the city's current budget and deficit of funded staff for our growing city, it seems that adding another parking lot when we are already having a parking lot on the same block within 1 minute walk should not be the highest priority. Further, we should be using this money to make beautification improvements to Main Street as promised in the bond program. There are a lot of other opportunities for a parking space that do not require purchasing new land, including improving land that we already have in the area and adjusting the UDC for Main Street. What is the larger plan for parking on Main Street? Are we going to purchase a lot adjacent to every new business to accommodate parking concerns? I would prefer to see a parking plan before the city starts taking commercial land off the tax rolls for city parking lots. Lining Main Street with parking lots is not the vision I had seen in the past. Thank you again for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. We'll move on to consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered self-explanatory, and information packets are provided to council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Item number 1, minutes, consideration or action regarding the approval of minutes of our regular meeting on July 28, 2020. Item number 2, resolution number 20R86, consideration or action approving a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing expenditures in the amount not to exceed $219,650 with C3 Environmental Incorporated for the Main Street Sidewalk Beautification Program and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 3, ordinance number 20L23, consideration or action approving an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 62, Peddlers and Solicitors, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. This is also our final reading. Item number 4, resolution number 20R87, consideration or action approving a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a First Amendment to the Management Service Agreement between the City of Schertz and the Cibolo Valley Local Government Corporation, CVLGC, for management services and other matters in connection therewith. Council, do any of these items need to be pulled for separate action?
Mayor, if you please, like number 2 to be pulled.
Number 2? Okay.
I have a couple questions about number 3 and number 5.
Okay. Number
brief, but I would like them answered.
Number 3 is being pulled, and number 2, okay.
Yeah, 3 and 5.
5 is already available for discussion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any others, council? Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 and 4?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve agenda items 1 and 4 by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Hayward. Any other comments, questions? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Let's go ahead and move on to discussion items. Item number 2, That's resolution number 20R86. Consideration or action approving a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing expenditures in the amount not to exceed $219,650 with C3 Environmental Incorporation for the Main Street Sidewalk Beautification Program and other matters in connection therewith. Okay, Mr. James.
Thank you, Mayor. As the caption said, this is really the first physical improvement folks are going to be seeing with the Main Street project. And as has been said, we've been waiting a long time, so we're excited to kick this off. You may recall that we talked about this a number of months ago, filling in the sidewalk gaps. So the first step was go in, make it more pedestrian friendly, make it more walkable. We would fill in the gaps in sidewalk. That project was about $100,000 or so. When we got out with the contractor to look at it and began looking at the curb, we felt like we could save some money to do curb replacement at the same time. So that was added to the project, which is why we're coming back to you now. So this is the first phase. We're excited to kick it off. It's the sidewalk fill-in and the curb replacement along those areas. Once we do this, we'll come in with the larger beautification process. And so again, pending approval from this, Doug Letterbetter and I will be walking the streets of Main Street, knocking on doors to chat with the property owners to let them know the schedule and kick it off and get it going.
Okay. Councilmember Scagliola, you pulled this out, so
Yeah, thank you so very much there. Just in the interest of transparency, during the hearing of residents, we had the letter written wondering why the no mention of funding was made. Well, truth is, it was put on the consent agenda because it was discussed the previous week. But in this case, we just didn't have any discussion at all.
That's
so
right.
I was wondering, one, where is the money coming from? And then two, how much funding is still available for the Main Street project?
Happy to cover that, and I'll kind of touch a little bit too. So you remember we have $1 million in bond funds generally from the Main Street specific bond. We allocated an extra $400,000 of older leftover street bond money to supplement that. And then we got approval from the Economic Development Corporation to kick in an additional $300,000 to $500,000. So we've got between, $1.9 million. This money for the sidewalk and curb will come from the Main Street bond money, or possibly the street money. It can cover either of those two, and as we play this out. We tentatively have said the parking lot improvements will come from those as well. However, when we've had conversations with EDC in the past, they like the idea of some of the parking lot improvements, so we may go update them next meeting and say, the money you've said you'll spend, you want us to use that on the parking lot? If they say, nope, it's great with us, we can tap into those funds. If not, the plan is to use the Main Street bond funds for those. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 20R86.
I have a question.
There's no questions.
Hold on.
No?
Councilmember Scott?
I have no trouble with any of this. I think it's fantastic. It's more of a question about the aesthetics. Excludes dewatering. I'm not sure what that is, but there's a mention of seeds and topsoil and seedbed preparation. So I was wondering about how is it going to look aesthetically, and I apologize, Councilman Scagliola, if I missed that one about when you go down Schertz Parkway, it's just beautiful with the crepe myrtles, and I mean you can really see it. And I love the flags; those
Yes,
are
ma'am.
so pretty.
Yeah, flags do look nice.
And Main Street beautification, the infrastructure is critically important. I saw when we did the sidewalks, but I'm wondering about the plants and such.
The plants will come the next phase. So again, what we talked about doing is trying to phase it so we can manage it. Again, part of our challenge of getting going this long. So what we have here is really the sidewalk and the curb. The only kind of landscape where you'll see a mention is whenever we have a city project where they do earth disturbing activity, they pull something out, they rip it up, they tear it up, you can't leave that bare soil there because it'll wash away in the rain. You've seen a little bit of that happening during the construction on Schertz Parkway till that happens. So the mention in here of that would solely be where there's a need to reestablish vegetation. But the beautification aspect, the planter beds, the sculptures, the signage, all of that's coming in the next phase. We're getting this going, and then we'll come back to you on that to keep it moving. So we tried to phase it to bite off reasonable chunks to get it going. This is the first one, then we'll move into that phase, which everybody's jazzed about. But I think from our perspective, from staff, this all works hand in hand. And you're right, if we don't have the infrastructure, it's not helping us. If it doesn't look attractive, that's not helping us. The other is, if we don't have places for people to reasonably be able to park, we can't get those private folks to make that investment. So when we've talked to folks, what they've often said, and this is getting a little off topic, but with the parking is, one individual can't afford to do that. There's not room on their property, it's not cost effective, and it's not the most efficient use. One business building a parking lot that just they use, that we pass by, it's half full, other businesses are struggling, not a good. So what we've learned and what we've heard is, the city, you guys really can step in on the parking. This is part of that to do that. So I think it really does all fit hand in hand. The last thing I'll say with regard to the floodplain is, we have to make an investment in that area. We cannot abandon the older parts of our community because they are in the floodplain. That is the reason, in my opinion, we have to make this greater investment. If we don't, how do we ask the private sector to do this? So this is really, I think, for us kind of walking the walk where we've talked the talk.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd be very happy to second the motion.
Okay. We have motion to approve resolution number 20R86 by Dr. Scagliola, second by Councilmember Scott. Any other comments? Not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 3, ordinance number 20L23. Consideration or action approving the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinance for Chapter 62, peddlers and solicitors, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, and providing an effective date. Councilmember Scott, you pulled this one, so floor is yours.
Okey-dokey, thank you. I think just the way that I think it would have been helpful to see the previous ordinances and the new ones with the corrections there, because it was kind of tedious for me to go back and forth. I just had a simple question on the panhandlers. Like, were there any changes in that? What was it before and what did it change to now? Was that under the solicitation and peddlers, correct? Panhandlers were...
Right.
Yeah.
This ordinance was 17 years old.
Okay.
And there had been many changes in the law, some of the terminology, and some of the court decisions affect what we do as a municipality. So it's essentially a complete rewrite of the ordinance to update the definitions and also some of the regulations as we applied them. So in that, pull up Panhandler, we added the, we pulled Panhandler, get this right here. Okay. If you look at the definitions, we added several of them into there, and panhandle was one of the definitions we added into that. Before we had the peddler, and we updated that definition below it and tried to differentiate between the two, and also, the canvasser and soliciting.
Okay.
I understand it's a hard read with this format.
It is, and my question on it was all very clear, by the way. The canvassers are for political, or the hours. It was very clear. The panhandles was not as clear to me on that. I was trying to wrap my mind around it, and I know that homeless people. It's a sad, sad life, and I applaud the officer that bought that gentleman's shoes, and I've tried to help when I see them too. My concern is when you look at some places, I know Austin has a severe problem with their homelessness that are affecting their downtown businesses. San Antonio, my husband and I used to go there all the time many years ago. When we last went earlier this year before the COVID, I was really surprised to see a lot of people, on the street and sleeping bags. It's heartbreaking, but it can be a detriment to business, and I'm trying to find the balance between being a good Christian about it and helping these people, but not hindering business and letting, the businesses go on. So when I read this, I was very encouraged that, they can't hit your car and they can't be belligerent and all this.
Right.
That was for the panhandlers, right? Was that under...
Yes, when you, that part of touching the vehicle, that's part of the aggressive manner in which people with panhandle or solicit funds.
Yeah.
And what we did is we also adopted the state's Texas Transportation Code, where the state does not allow people to to solicit funds in the roadway.
Oh, okay. All righty.
So we adopted that portion, but it also gives the city, within that code, it gives the city the ability to permit certain employees or organizations to solicit it within our community. But they have to get approval from the city first.
I think that's very, very good that you want to get approval, and I support some of the people I've seen out there. The one that just comes to mind summarily is the fireman with the boot and what have you. I don't ever want to see that go away.
Yes.
But I just wanted to know the differentiation. What was it before and what is it now? And so I didn't want to miss anything in all of this. But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, any other questions? Councilmember Scagliola?
Yeah, Chief, I was reading through the rewrite, and I didn't know which one was the new one, the red one or the blue one. I take it the red one is the new?
Depending on
color coding.
What I've got is the strike-throughs and underline. If you saw that the blue was addition and the original and the red was removed, it should have a strike-through.
Okay. Yeah, one of the concerns I had is there are some communities out there where the HOA has posted no soliciting in this HOA.
Yes.
Now, I understand that you can't canvass at a house with a no soliciting sign. At least that's the way I'm reading it now. However, what about in an HOA that has that posted on the front?
If an
Is
HOA
canvassing allowed there?
at their entrance has the no soliciting, no canvassing, no peddling posted, they are limiting, no, you can't do that. That is their choice. Just like much like your own personal property, if I put no soliciting, no canvassing at my door, that's what I expect. I don't want you to canvass or solicit on my property. So those covenants within those HOAs, they have the right to do that. While, you know, an individual homeowner within that gated community may want it, it's still the HOA as a whole, much like the city council is to the city for that community.
Is that an adherence to state law, or is that a personal interpretation?
That is the city providing, telling this HOA, you can do what you want on your own property. We cannot regulate HOA property within those gates.
But you're talking about gated communities, Chief, right?
Yes, gated communities.
That's in a gated community.
Yes.
There's a lot of communities out there that are not gated communities, however. They're public access roads.
If it's not gated, that's up to the individual homeowner.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we're just strictly the HOAs in those gated communities where they posted at that entrance.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions? Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20L23?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Council, any other comments, questions? No? Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Scagliola. Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Thank you, Chief Bay.
Thank you.
We'll move on to discussion items and action items. Item number 5, ordinance number 20M24. Consideration or action to approve an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the City of Schertz Code of Ordinance and certain other ordinances by amending and establishing fees for certain licenses, permits, and other services provided by the City of Schertz. And this is our final reading. Mr. Walters, you have the floor.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm James Walters, the Finance Director with the City of Schertz. First, I wanted to start off, we had no other recommended changes to any of the fees. There are 2 recommendations we're making tonight from the first reading on the permits related to the above-ground pools under a certain height, as well as a deck permit. Before we kick it over to those questions, I wanted to see if there were any other questions on any of the other fees before we move over into that discussion.
Okay, Councilmember Scott, the floor is yours.
Yes, on page 72, what's the replacement tag? If we're doing chipping, what's the replacement tag? Under pet license, it has standard fee, $5, license per year, spade or neuter, $10, replacement tags if lost, $2. I was just wondering what they are.
So the license comes with a tag. We don't have a license anymore per the microchipping ordinance. So that would be not something we would charge. So but if you lost your tag from the license, then there would be a charge to replace the tag.
Okay, and then my second one, well, no, I had two more. Why are the, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why is it more expensive if the dog or the cat are not spayed or neutered? It's like a different fee for that.
Yeah, generally they're, I think Mark Bain's in the back and he can come answer it as well. There's a couple things. One is they're, generally the unneutered, especially male dogs, can be more aggressive inherently, as well as if they're all not fixed and they get together and make puppies or kittens, then that is another round of hassle and expenses that the city doesn't.
Yeah, I think that kind of is prejudice against the breeders who don't want to get their dogs neutered or spayed, but I understand what you're saying. Also, the dangerous dog permit, $200. Why are we allowing dangerous dogs? And I didn't see a list on there. Is that just the one like the vet usually says, like the biters? Or what's up with that, if you could enlighten?
That one I'll have to turn over to Mr. Bain.
In regards to the dangerous dogs, there is a court proceeding that has to take place in order to get a dog labeled as dangerous. And at some point, the city decided that was an appropriate fee once that dog was labeled as a dangerous animal.
So it's not breed-based, it's behavior-based?
It is behavior-based. For example, if we have a dog that gets out and bites somebody,
okay,
and it's of a severity or it's happened more than once, we have the opportunity to go to the courts and have that dog labeled as dangerous. That homeowner has to take special precautions at their home and also pay that fee.
I think that's just fine. Thank you. That's what I was wondering. I didn't understand where.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Council, any other questions?
So I am Brian James, a different James, up here to explain the correction and change from last meeting. So again, a couple things that we had proposed to do last meeting, or what we originally came forward is inspections was proposing to lower the cost of a pool permit for sort of a shallower pool. There were some questions for council, I think good feedback. So what we've done is, as a reminder, we charge $500 for an in-ground pool. It's big, a lot of plan review, a lot of inspections. We had charged $200 for an above-ground pool. I think the concern that came up, and I did a poor job in explaining it, is, well, what if somebody comes in with a little plastic kiddie pool that's like 10 inches? And I said, I don't know, good point. You're actually not required to pull a permit for a pool that's less than 24 inches in depth. So the little kiddie pool prefab thing you buy, load in the car, wash the dog, and let the kids sit in, you don't need a permit for that. And we've noted that in the revised fee schedule. What we've done for above ground, because we don't do that many above ground pools to begin with, is we've dropped the fee to $25. And really it's a balancing act. You can get some big ones that people have. There's maybe a little more to do in terms of review and inspections. But for pools that you can kind of get from Walmart or order through Amazon that are above that 24 inches, what we really want you to do is come in for the permit so we can make sure you meet a few safety things. Because when it gets above the 24 inches, it's deep enough for a child to drown in. And so we want to look at the alarm on the door. We want to make sure that if you've got a pump, and most of those you buy a separate pump with the 3-prong outlet, you're not sticking it into an extension cord. You're getting in a location where you can hardwire to avoid electrocution, things like that. So the proposal is to drop the fee for above ground to $25. Note that if it's less than 24 inches, you don't need a permit at all to avoid confusion and people thinking that. And then we'll work on some of the handouts we've done on pools to make it easier for folks. The other thing that I mentioned, because a resident had raised the issue, is feeling that our deck fee was too high. It's $225 plus you get a plan review fee or a plan check fee on top of that. And that's about another $100 or so, somewhere in there. So it's about $325. I think council's concern was, it's a deck. We're really kind of tacking on the cost for somebody to build a deck, and fair enough. So what we've done there is we looked at council's comments, and rather than eliminate a requirement for a permit there, and that was because when talking to our inspections folks, they said, you know, we think this is an area where, well, yeah, somebody's not going to get injured on a 6-inch deck. Residents are paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for a deck, and we want to make sure they kind of get their money's worth. And they said, we do not approve a surprisingly large number of deck plans first round because they're not designed to meet code, and it often has to do with the way the board is attached to the kind of pier with you. And we also typically do 2 inspections. One's to make sure that post is set deep enough into the ground, the other to come back and make sure it's constructed right. So the kind of compromise that they thought is, look, yeah, fine, let's charge $25 or charge $100 for it. Again, the plan review doesn't take a long time, but we do a couple of inspections. So lower the fee to 100. So on average, you're going from about $325 maybe to $100. But let's make sure they need a permit so that we ensure residents are getting decks built when they're making that investment the way they need to with code. So that's the proposal we've come back there, is to drop that down to $100. There's no plan check fee on top of it, straight $100.
Okay, council, any questions? No questions. All right. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20M24?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hayward, second by, didn't catch that, who was it? Councilmember Davis. All right. Council, any other questions? Let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. All right, we'll move on to our workshop. Workshop discussion and update regarding the COVID-19 virus and our current ordinance number 20H18, Declaration of Local Disaster. Okay, Mr. Kelm, floor is yours.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Pleasure to be with you here tonight. Chief Long was taking care of something tonight, so I know he'd rather be here, but unfortunately. So would like to begin with some of the updates on the numbers, and we're going to start shifting this. Both the state and the counties have been changing how they're reporting numbers, so we're going to try to start focusing more on the active cases that are there and help develop some trends. Now these numbers are active or current as of today, this morning. So we have 68 active in Guadalupe County, 36 with here in Schertz. Now one thing we did add was the 81.8% or roughly 82% of our cases are recovered. So that's new this evening. We're seeing the same trends in Bexar County with 82% recovery rate. Again, we have 7,265 active cases as of this morning. In Comal County, we're still working with them, and they're changing their reporting procedures. So the number's a little low there at 56%. We think it's probably closer to 82% with how they're reporting the numbers. We are excited about 2 walk-up testings that we've had recently, both on July 24th and the 31st. We had 300 cases tested, or 300 individuals, I should say, tested on July 24th, and 260 on the 31st. Those folks, that's the swab test. So you stick it in your mouth, hit your roof, your tongue, underneath your tongue. You kind of do that for a little bit, about 2 minutes, put it in a vial, and it gets shipped off. And in 2 days, they're getting responses. So many of the folks that were tested on the 24th were getting results on the 26th and 7th. And then those on Friday the 31st, as of Sunday afternoon, about 2 o'clock, started receiving responses from their tests. So a much quicker turnaround than we've seen in previous testing. And our folks are excited about that. I think our residents are not excited about getting tested, but they did enjoy the procedures. So. We're still seeing significant growth in Houston with their numbers overall. The rest of the cities, in comparison to Guadalupe County, are starting to flatten off based on this recent peak, but that's a good positive trend that they're starting to normalize, minus Houston area. Hospitalization rate for COVID positive. Again, that number is starting to come down on the actual hospitalization. We're at a little over 8,819. Unfortunately, the positivity rate is increasing just a bit. Really, if you look at it statistically, it's kind of normalizing, but it is growing just a bit. And then the overall specific number of positive cases is 9,539. And we'll start trending and plotting that just so y'all can see the trends a little easier. Our current hospitalization rates, again, are going down, which we're excited about that in Bexar County. 886, we do still have a significant number in ICU and on the ventilators, unfortunately, but the overall numbers are going down. And then compared to non-COVID hospitalization, we're at 2,797. So, and again, any questions? I'll try to.
All right, Council, floor is open for discussion. Any questions? Councilmember Dalla.
On those two mobile testings, do you have any data yet on the positivity rate on those?
No, sir, we don't. We don't have it from the collectively. They send it out to the individuals first, and then we should be getting responses collectively.
Any other questions? No other questions. All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 7. Appointment of the Mayor Pro Temp, discussion and consideration and/or action regarding confirmation, appointment, or election of the Mayor Pro Temp. Just have a couple of things I want to say regarding this position. The Mayor Pro Temp is a member of the council who performs the duties of the mayor during the mayor's incapacity or absence. The Mayor Pro Temp is elected by the majority of vote of the council from among its own membership. The Mayor Pro Temp's term is 6 months, from August 2020 through February 2021. The Mayor Pro Tem retains the right to vote on all matters before the City Council while performing duties as the mayor. All right, Council, floor is open for discussion. Any questions? Okay. Next in line, according to our rules and procedures, is Councilmember Scott. And I'd like to go ahead and make a motion from the chair that we approve Councilmember Scott as the next Mayor Pro Temp.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Okay, Councilmember Scott has a couple questions.
Do I get to vote on this since it's for me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, motion's been made by the chair, second by, was it Councilmember Scagliola? Any other comments or questions? None, let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 8, water conservation, workshop discussion regarding water conservation and the current demands on the Schertz water supply. Thank you. Ms. Williams, the floor is yours.
I will learn this system. So a lot like when you leave your, you wash your car and rain comes. It's similar to, I was preparing this presentation, water supply and water conservation, and the rain comes. So I might have to talk about this more often. But to bring us all together on the same page, I want to talk about the Schertz water supply. Primarily, Schertz receives its water from SSLGC, the Schertz Seguin Local Government Corporation. The SSLGC pipes the water into Schertz through basically one pipeline. It goes to our East Live Oak pumps, and then it's distributed throughout Schertz. We have an allocated amount with SSLGC there's some nuances with that. It's dependent upon how much it can pump, and then also if some of the other entities are drawing water. So we have a between 8 to 9 million gallons per day allocation. That does not mean that's the maximum necessarily that we get, and I'll explain that as we walk through this, because, well, our demand here in Schertz right now is around 11 million gallons per day. Now, SSLGC is able to meet that demand because right now it is performing its highest amount, and also the other entities are not pulling. So, for example, Selma, Universal City, they have allocations from SSLGC as well, but they're not pulling, so SSLGC can provide us with more water. Now, Schertz also has a secondary source of water, and those are on the Edwards Aquifer wells. Unlike SSLGC, the Edwards Aquifer wells, we also have an allocation with those. Now, our wells can produce more water than we're actually allocated. If we go above that allocation, then we can encumber a fine. The other unique thing about these wells are that these are also the drought stages, because they're incumbent on the J17 well. When we're in different drought stages, well, not we, when the J17 is under different drought stages, that also impacts the amount of water we can pull from these Edward Aquifer wells. One of the most important things to remember about this is our demand, because demand is basically, as you probably know, drives how much water we need to supply so we can meet that demand. That demand has been growing. You can see here, these are just two small charts showing what we basically, these same months last year. So our demand is growing. One of the solutions we have basically, because we have a demand that's growing, we have that water supply that is somewhat basically stabilized at this time. We have some solutions to look toward addressing this, and one is we are in the process of constructing a pipeline, a secondary pipeline from SSLG to Schertz. With that pipeline, we build in redundancy to our system. We have a secondary pipeline, so if something happens to that first pipeline, whether we need to take it down to maintenance for whatever reason, we have a secondary pipeline. We also are increasing our capacity. SSLGC can only push so much water through one pipeline. You put a second pipeline on it, you can move more water. That's a couple of years out. So what we're doing, though, is we have another solution right now, is we are developing a water conservation campaign. We have already started that campaign. This is an example of a graphic that was put out on social media. We're developing this for social media as well as for our written communication. It doesn't end there. Again, this is just an immediate, let's get this out there to our residents, because we want to address that demand and basically manage our water supply by stabilizing that demand and giving them the tools to do so. One of the other tools that we have because of drought, and as you can see, this was just on July 28, 2020, much of the state is in drought, and our particular counties, our region, is in the higher end of the drought. Schertz does have a drought ordinance, and some of the beauty of this drought ordinance is that this drought ordinance does have best management practices in it, depending upon if we have to react to it. This ordinance has triggers for stages, and they're predominantly based on whether our demand, and again, it always goes back to that demand, whether that demand approaches or exceeds basically our water supply amounts, or if there are emergency situations that we would for some reason need to curtail our water. We would declare these stages when the triggers are met, and then we can terminate those stages if that trigger has resolved itself for 30 consecutive days. The city manager can also step in and make other declarations. As I said, this drought, the ordinance has a lot of best management practices built into it to help. Through each stage, they actually have a goal. As we move, there are 4 defined stages, and each of those stages has a goal. The first stage has 10%, the second goal is 20%, and so on and so forth of water reduction. And in each of those stages, there are goals that are built into, there are rules built in so we can achieve those goals. I keep referring to best management practices, and one of those is year-round watering. That is not a drought stage. That is basically what the ordinance says, is that we should not water between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. Now, outdoor watering is about 40%, 50% of your consumption, regarding what study you look at. And putting that water out during the hottest times of the day is not the most effective way to use that water supply. So again, that's not necessarily a trigger, it's year-round. And so part of our education process, we just want to include some of this language to help our residents understand how they can help out, what they can do. And then if we did have to enact the drought ordinance, this language would not be so foreign and would not be so unfamiliar. Some of the other rules as you move through these triggers are ornamental fountains prohibited. If you get into stage 1 and 2, your watering is reduced to 1 day per week. That's according to the last digit of your address. So for example, if your last digit was 01, you'd water on a Monday, 2 or 3, Tuesday, so on. And it just kind of goes down from there as we move through the stage of the drought. There's some enforcement built into that drought ordinance if we had to go that direction. It's a misdemeanor fine of up to $200 for the offenses. Again, it escalates as those offenses increase. But right now we're looking at this robust educational program. And this educational program, we're working closely with public affairs geared toward both your children and your adults, getting into homeowners associations, into the schools, helping people understand their responsibilities, then also Schertz would be a resource for our residents. Sometimes there's also questions, though, if sister cities are in drought restrictions, why aren't we? Or what can we do so we can avoid them? We'd like to be leading that and be the resource for our residents. Also, we would develop some expectations for commercial and residential customers. They, by definition, can have different demands, whether it be the size of your property or the size of your meter. Commercial properties can often put out more water onto their property than a residential person could. So we'd like to look in those, if we went this route, explore that. And then we'd also have to explore those tools of enforcement. What does that look like for Schertz? Whether it's through a written letter, is it through personnel, but exactly what's right for us. So the ordinance does have a skeleton framework, but we, of course, we want to look at what's right for us. And that's really all I had. Just wanted to bring you up to speed, but I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Council questions? Councilmember Brown.
Do you know how the adoption rate is for the municipal water online?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What's the adoption rate so far for the online water monitoring? Do we have any idea yet?
That'd probably be James.
Okay, so we don't know yet. That's fine.
We'll get you an answer.
Yeah, just wondering what that rate was, because I know a lot of people have got, leak issues and things like that, if we can stop that stuff ahead of time.
The reason we brought this to you is because we're just seeing high usage rates, and Amber's here, and John Winkler is here also. Amber, maybe you could just talk for a little bit about when you would declare stage 1, or how you would, the process you would use to go about doing that. Because really, to go into one of these stages requires SSLGC to make a declaration. It's not just something that we would up and do on our own.
Okay, good evening, Council, Mayor. So the trigger, everything, there's variance in water production. So the way the City of Schertz contract is written is City of Schertz is allocated 50% of the water that is produced and treated, minus our contractual obligations that we have. So we have, City of Seguin takes the other 50%. So our customers are Springs Hill, Universal City, Selma, and then we do sell a little bit of excess water to the San Antonio water system. And how that works is, the numbers that Suzanne put up, that was situational based. We're, best case scenario, if our plant's operating at typical capacity, it's around 31 MGD. So I know I'm getting into all the numbers, but it just depends. Our trigger right now, looking at it, it's from our booster pump station over to Schertz. So that's the parallel pipeline project that we've been working on, and we do have that project underway. It's expected to be completed in the summer of 2022. So the trigger would be a sustained high delivery. We have to send Schertz enough water to keep the tanks at a certain level, and that number is around 11 to 11.5 MGD total delivered. So the chart that Susanna put up with the blue and then the orange, I put that together yesterday. The 10,206 was a number that was actually delivered, and that was on July 22nd. So, we have this summer. We don't know what August is bringing us. Hopefully we get some rain, but we do have summer 2021 and then potentially the summer of 2022. We hope to have the project completed before then, but it's just something we have to be cognizant of.
Okay, Councilmember Scagliola.
Yeah, thanks very, very much for coming by. Hey, conservation is always important. Now, I sit on the SSLGC board, or I sit with the people who work on the board. I wish Mr. Greenwald was here tonight. He's been a major player since its inception. I know we got some of the best analysts and engineers around, and pretty much we have anticipated there would be a slight crunch. Not a whole lot of wiggle room in there, and it would last for about a year, maybe 14, 16, 18 months. Is there anything going on with those projections we really need to be concerned with right now? The Schertz have a decent supply for the foreseeable future. As I said, I'm all for conservation, and everyone should be doing their part. But just to set the record straight, is there any real need for us to be worried about our water supply right now?
So not right now. There are some things that management can do with some of the contracts. If Schertz does bump up against that amount, that our pumps can only pump that much from our booster pump station before we get this pipeline in. There are some discussions that we can have internally with those who we hold contracts with to alleviate that. So. Short answer is no. We do have projects in place, to meet the growing need, and our projections are looking spot on so far. This is our engineer. This is John Winkler. He's with Walker Partners. He's been very, very close in predicting what the needs are and when. So,
thank you so very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Dalla.
So just to be really clear, this is not a supply issue. It's a transportation issue.
Well, it's kind of a combination of both. Councilman Spagliola mentioned about the supply. This is a two-phase project we're actually doing. We're doing a parallel pipeline. We're also doing additional wells in the well field. Currently, the crunch is the pump station at pushing water to Schertz. Right now, we have two pumps there. Both of them are 2,500 horsepower each that push water here. One pump runs 24 hours a day, the other one's a backup. We have to run 24/7 to bring water to Schertz. In normal times, we're running about 70, 80% on those pumps. Currently, we've got them ramped up to about 92% to get water to the city of Schertz and to Sauls to meet our contract with Sauls. So we got about 8% wiggle room. And what we're trying to do is flatten out the curve, kind of like they were talking about COVID-19, try and get people smart on water usage and not water, say everybody turn on their sprinkler system on Monday morning and we get this big demand that jumps up. So because we see these peaks and valleys, we'd like people to be cognizant of what they're doing, kind of flatten that out in the interim this summer and next summer until we can get these new facilities online.
I think if we had 30 days of 100-degree plus weather, I mean, you'd see some supply problems.
There could be delivery problems at that point in time. I think supply we're okay, but pushing the water from the pump station to Schertz, like I say, we're running at 92% of those pumps. We have variable frequency drives on them. We have them ramped up to 92%. We've got about 2 more MGD, 2.5 MGD we can get additional out of the pump, and then we're at peak. So at that point in time, we would have a delivery problem. Yeah.
You know, the weather forecast is 100-degree temperatures for about the next week, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we did want to come talk tonight. So it is a delivery problem and it's a supply problem, but we want to make sure y'all were aware that we're pulling, in some days, our full demand from SSLGC. Well, now, we're balancing that here in the city of Schertz with our Edwards wells. So we have about 4 MGD we can pull there. Now, depending on the restrictions that the Edwards Aquifer put in there, we actually plan about 2 million. So public math, which I'm not very good at, we have about 13 million that we kind of count on at any given time. As you saw from the slides, we're at about 11 and a half, right? So we're getting close to that. Now, this is a big shift for many of us from the 90s, as when we put SSLGC as a city and we partnered with our sister cities, we thought we'd have plenty of water, and we do have plenty of water. But we're getting close to that capacity. That's all we wanted to share tonight. So it'll be it could be a culture shock or shift for our city if we have to start rationing water at some point in August. And so we just wanted to start with an education campaign. Maybe we can conserve our consumption as a city and reduce that demand, and then we should have no issues. But as Amber stated, we do have 2 years to go till we get that parallel pipeline in. And we do balance both the demand and the water pressure in the system. So as she said, that's key. They've got to push as much water as they can so we can keep our tanks full. Because when they drop down and we have to refill them, that's when the pressure drops. And so in southern Schertz we see issues, and sometimes in northern Schertz we'll see those. As those tanks refill, that's when the pressure drops. And so they try to keep those as full as possible, and we've shortened the refill cycle so we don't let it drop as much, so we balance both demand and pressure. So it is an orchestrated dance, if you will, but we just wanted to make sure that y'all were fully aware that how much water we're pulling as a city. We're able to meet it today, so we're not as concerned both on SSLGC's ability to supply as well as our Edwards Aquifer. But we just want to make sure to be transparent so that in case in August, if that demand continues to grow, we may have some challenges, and or if the pumps aren't able to keep up for one reason or another, mechanical or elsewhere.
Yeah, I just didn't want to send out an email someday that says, you know, we're looking at rationing water, and council said we never even knew that there was ever even a problem with our water. And so we're saying today we're fine, but 30 days of 100-degree plus weather, you know, we may not be.
Okay, Councilmember Scott.
Yes. How are y'all disseminating the information about the voluntary water reduction suggestions and conservation efforts?
So we started with social media and putting that out. We're going to probably work with utility billing, see what we can maybe put on the bills, that process, because there is a little thing you can put down there. Now, we haven't fully flushed that out from a conservation campaign, but those are some of the things that we're looking at.
Okay. And then like the newsletter that goes out?
The newsletter, the magazine. Linda and Public Affairs have been fantastic with different ideas and coming up with part of the campaign. They came up with the actual drawing, so they've really been helpful. So you'll start seeing that come in full speed or full speed ahead.
Good.
But we wanted to talk to y'all first before we really got after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a luxury not to absolutely have to. Conservation's a good thing, but to have to, man, that's a tough place. There are a lot of new housing developments coming online, and Schertz is not going to stop. Even with the COVID, I don't see it, you know. It might slow down a wee little bit, but it's still going gangbusters, big time.
Very true.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're probably going to have more demand instead of less. The tools for enforcement, personnel and utility billing. Talk to me about that.
So personnel, that's code enforcement. We can get out if we start seeing people water running down the streets.
Like
we may stop and visit
whatever.
with them, that type of thing. Utility billing. With the system, they can track if we've got large flows at certain times. At 2 a.m., you're doing 3,000 gallons a day. That's usually an indicator somebody's watering or refilling the pools. So we would go visit with them or maybe contact them, say, hey.
Yeah. And then I know when we first moved here, our water bill was higher because we had 4 kids, and I remember calling the city and complaining, they were like, well, if you use less water, and I was outraged, like, we're not going to quit taking showers, but it seemed like it was punishing us just for using, we didn't have a swimming pool, we watered by hand, et cetera. And so I want to be concerned or express my concern for people with large families. I don't want to punish them for just having good hygiene and such. But I know what you're saying, not to be water wasters. Was there anything? Oh, and then when y'all were talking, and I was thinking, back in the 90s in San Antonio, I remember SAWS had this Conserve Water campaign, and man, they were on all the PSAs, every radio station, they were all over the news. So the city, we buckled our belts, and I lived in San Antonio during the 90s, buckled our belts and did it, and then they raised our rates. And I remember being so upset, like, why did we do all this? Because then they were losing money, and so then they raised their rates or what have you. So I don't know. I want to put that on the record. I don't want that to happen to our citizens here. And I'm very glad that Councilman Scagliola and Michael Dalla asked about the storage, because I think that's going to be real important too.
The storage of the water?
Yeah.
We have the tanks, and as soon as Corbett comes fully online, we'll have plenty there.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Okay, Council, any other questions? I have a couple. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
If everybody looks at the Schertz magazine, there's a nice 2-page spread there about the same poster you had there about Schertz saving water, and then an article about the online management, and that's why I was asking about that.
And I do want to give credit to Devin. I mentioned Linda, but Devin has really helped us out in public affairs. Yes, sir.
Okay, my question is, if we have a parallel pipeline, would that increase the number of gallons that we're authorized to pump from 11.5?
So the parallel pipeline will help with the issue at the booster pump station, and it will increase that number. However, as Schertz demand goes up, remember we're doing the Guadalupe project. We're also building another water treatment plant. So that's really gonna help double the amount that the city of Schertz will have. But the pipeline will double that amount. But then you have to go back to the source, the water treatment plant, and that the timing is there to where when the demand gets to that point and these new houses come in and the city of Schertz continues to grow, we'll have that other treatment plant online.
Okay, thank you. My other question is if we're running at capacity, can the water pressure cause damage to the lines because we're constantly pumping so much of it?
So pressure's a little, if you want, John can give the engineer, but the pressure that we have in the lines right now is because Corbett is not fully up and running yet. And so we have a higher pressure on this in central Schertz and to the north to push water that way. So that's a bigger concern to me than what's coming from them. So they're maintaining the pressure at the right level. Supply, we're actually increasing it coming from the live oak so that we can make sure we have pressure. Once Corbett is up, we'll drop the pressure down, and that should provide additional reliability in our lines. That's really affecting the 16-inch line that runs Schertz Parkway. I think you may have noticed we had a few breaks earlier this summer and last summer. That's due to the high pressure.
Okay. And my other question comes down to enforcement. How much time are we giving our residents before we do the enforcement? In other words, we announce stage 1, or as we go into these stages, how many days are we giving our residents time to make their adjustments before we do the enforcement?
Yes, sir. That's why we're trying to start the information campaign now so people can start thinking about it and processing. Some will take those actions voluntarily. If we go into those stages, by rule, we could do it right away. The reality is we would probably do an educational campaign probably a week or two before we know kidding. And really it would be those that we come back and the third time, hey, you can't be watering every day, all day long. It would be that, sir. Just similar to what we do with the COVID. Again, focus on education. We get a lot of compliance that way.
Right. Now my focus is individuals that may not get notified, and
you have to go slow. Especially
the first one. The first one will be.
We've never done it for years and years. We're going to have to go slow and issue warnings and bring people along.
Okay, great. That's all the questions I have. Council, any other questions? No other questions? Thank you. Oh,
One down here.
When I saw the slide when, oh, gosh.
Suzanne.
I was getting ready to say Susan, not Suzanne, sorry. Had the slide up about termination of water. Is that like a permanent termination or a temporary termination? And are we looking like, thinking that we'll get to that point with some people once you do the different? Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the education on our water supply and conservation. Appreciate it. We'll continue with the roll call confirmation. Our City Secretary, Brenda Dennis, will provide roll call confirmation vote on consent agenda items 1 and 4, discussion items 2, 3, and 5, and workshop number 7.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Consent agenda items 1 and 4. A motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmembers Scott, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 2, resolution number 20R86. A motion was made by Councilmember Scagliola, seconded by Councilmember Scott. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 3, ordinance number 20L23 on final reading. Motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 5, ordinance number 20M24 on first reading. Motion was made by Councilmember Hayward, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Pardon me. Item number 7, motion was made by the chair, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola, to appoint Ms. Rosemary Scott as the next Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. Okay, agenda item number 9 is a monthly update on major projects in progress and capital improvement projects. Those are just packets. The information packets is provided to council and available for public viewing. So we'll continue with requests and announcements. Announcements by our city manager, Dr. Brown. Any
Nothing further, Mayor.
Okay. Council, is there any items you'd like to request information or updates on? None? Is there any items you'd like to place on future agendas? None. Okay. Then we'll continue with announcements by council members. Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Nothing, sir.
Councilmember Scott.
Not at this time.
Councilmember Larson. Councilmember Dalla.
Nothing, sir.
Dr. Scagliola.
Nothing.
Councilmember Hayward.
Commissioner's Court, and they talked about the numbers of the test kits when they were talking about COVID, and they seemed to be very happy with the difference in the numbers where they had like 500 test kits and only, a couple hundred people came out. So they're being encouraged that we're kind of on the downswing of things.
Okay, Councilmember Brown.
Nothing.
Okay, I don't have anything else. The time is 7:29. We stand adjourned.